Hey, everybody, welcome back to the triple option. And this is, boys, it's the first game week triple option of the year. And I can feel the energy coursing through my body right now. Adam and Kevin, how are you guys doing? Are you feeling the heat, brothers?
Listen, I don't need to know what's coursing through your body, first off.
Fair
I
enough.
can tell you I am full of piss and vinegar right now, ready for this freaking football game.
What about you, Kevin? Urine, vinegar? What else is in your bloodstream?
Mostly blood, but I'm ready.
Well, that's good. That's about as excited as we're going to get. That's an amped up Kevin.
This is me.
Boys, before we get to it, just subscribe to the X's and O's YouTube page. We're the only YouTube page, to my knowledge, which is all I care about, that breaks down the actual Florida State football film. There's no conjecture. There's no talking about things. You actually get to see what happened on the field. Subscribe to the X's and O's YouTube page so you can see that. Along with the other, we're starting to branch out into some other different content, flowers. We're going to have a lot of good stuff for you this season, and you need to see it all. Go to the Patreon. Help Kevin. Look at those books in the background. They're fake. He can't actually afford books. He's poor. Go to the Patreon and give him money. Look at those sheets. That's like a 7-thread count sheet. Kevin is sleeping on paper towels. Help him out. Make his life better. I'm ready to go. So I want to what we're gonna do on this episode, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we like to call Florida State's Warpath to victory. Because what we're going to analyze is the things that Florida State needs to do against Notre Dame to secure the W. Now, if you want to know more about what's happened on the Notre Dame side of the ball, our fearless compatriot Kevin did an awesome solo preview of the Notre Dame team. Check it out on the X's and O's YouTube page. If you weren't a scumbag and you haven't subscribed yet, you would have already seen it. And it was good. And we're talking about prototypical Notre Dame, which is they're an interesting team actually to look at, because as college football has evolved and everybody's spread out on offense, Notre Dame has almost kind of done the opposite. A lot of big personnel, a lot of condensed sets, a lot of bunch formation, heavy emphasis on running the ball. Obviously great offensive line tight end back play. And then on defense, Kevin really went into in depth on new defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman from Cincinnati. Likes to play a lot of cover 3, likes to play a lot of man, presses with the corners, and then also does some very interesting things with how his defensive line and his linebackers interplay. So if you want to get some more non-dumb explanation of that, check out the Solar Notre Dame preview. Here we're going to talk about the Noles. Boys, and we're going to have Notre Dame. We're going to have two things going on in the background. We're going to have Notre Dame spring game, which we think is going to be valuable because it's going to let us see maybe how Notre Dame will do some of the things differently than they did against Florida State last year based on their current personnel, which has gone through some marked changes. And then we're also going to play the game from last year because, to be frank, if I was Notre Dame and I had the success doing some things against Florida State that they had last year, I would do it again. Adam, what's your first big key to the game that Florida State needs to do to come out with a victory?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing you got to do if you're Florida State is you've got to find a way to force Jack Cohn to be the guy that is going to win the game for Notre Dame, right? I mean, he's got to be the guy that goes out there and beats you. It can't be the Williams kid. It can't be Tyree. It can't be baby Gronk, Michael Mayer, who you see working in the middle of the field a lot. You got to make Jack Cohn win on throws like this down the field. I mean, that ball's fluttering around. It's a great catch. Nice catch. High point in the ball there.
It was good placement.
Yeah, it was.
But that's more of a Jack Cohn throw right there. These are more of the prototypical. Jack Cohn is the Wisconsin quarterback transfer. Kevin plays very much like you would expect a Wisconsin quarterback to play. Not very fleet of foot, as you can see from there.
He reminds me a lot of Kellen Moore. He's got a lot of Kellen Moore in him.
Ooh, now you're getting, that's sacrilegious.
No, but in all seriousness, I mean, they averaged 7,000 yards per carry last year, on counter tray. So at some point, counter tray can't beat you. Outside zone can't beat you. Those plays just can't be what ends up ultimately winning the football game for Notre Dame. It's got to be Cohn trying to get the ball down the field to some receivers who are getting some hype in the preseason from Notre Dame side and some other folks. They were out for a lot of last year. We, I think there's a lot of folks that are going to probably tell you they're going to play a lot of 12 personnel.
Yeah, you see a lot more spread personnel here. I was just kind of pointing out the one time that they've loaded up the field with kind of the extended line of scrimmage, but they are majority out of spread formations.
Yeah, and it's a spring game. So
talk 12 and 11 again, Adam and Kevin, for some of our people that are new to the videos.
12 is going to be one back in the backfield with two tight ends, and 11 is going to be one back and one tight end. So last year's game, they ran a lot of Tommy Tremble, who was a wide receiver, tight end kind of hybrid player who could play in the box and play out wide. And then they played Michael Mayer, number 87, Baby Gronk. So they ran a lot of 12 personnel last year, and 12 personnel is going to force Florida State into some of its heavier packages with three linebackers on the field, which maybe Notre Dame sees that as a victory. I'm not sure, but I think they're going to want to probably base out a more 11 with Kevin Austin and some of these wide receivers who they're very high on. I think it's prove it on some of these wide receivers. I know there are some folks that are think that they've got a chance to do some things this year. We're going to see. I don't know if it's as much about what the wide receivers can and can't do as much as it is about what Jack Cohn can and can't do.
Yeah.
You're seeing number 17 as he's pushing the ball down the field. It loses something as it goes past 15, 17 yards. So that's where you're going to want him to have to beat you. And, I think you challenge these guys and say, hey, you're not going to run the football. We know they're going to have success running the football, but you're going to have to beat you with that guy's arm.
Right. You can see this throw to the sideline just doesn't quite have it.
Now, Kevin, we're seeing a lot of spread formations, a lot of shotgun. Yeah, this was the other quarterback that they had in there. But what they're running now, how much of this do you think they're actually going to implement during the season, and how much of this is just kind of razzle dazzle for the spring game audience?
If I were to guess, they're probably just trying to break in Jack Cohn. I think you're going to see a lot more of kind of this set here. I think they're still going to want to do the two tight end looks. It's what they're comfortable with. I don't foresee them overhauling the entire offense just for Jack Cohn.
Right.
If they do, I think that's a mistake. One thing that I think is interesting is I've seen a lot more zone out of this defense than I did typically out of Freeman's defenses last year. I mean, I say that and then they do man coverage, but
it's okay. That's just the video god smiting you, right, as you say something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I think this is kind of what they're going to want to do. They might throw the ball more often than they did last year because they trust Cohn, but you're going to see them in these sets. They're going to want to, if they're throwing the ball, they're going to want to have these isolated man-on-man routes where the bigger wide receivers they tend to pick up can kind of have this. I think I just can't foresee them going too far away from manufacturing easy completions for the quarterback and living through the running game, whether that's through 11 personnel or 12 personnel or whatever.
But Kev, I mean, you would agree that if Florida State's going to match up better with 11 personnel than 12 personnel, right? I mean, getting a fifth defensive back on the field as opposed to, or let me put it this way, putting Jamie Robinson on the field or Kevin Knowles on the field as opposed to playing. Yeah.
I see the optimism that they have behind Jack Cohn, but honestly, for me, if they're running 11 personnel, I think that game one, 11 personnel, an entire new offense, I think that bodes well for Florida State. I still wouldn't call it a Florida State victory. I'm just saying that.
No, yeah. But me personally, I feel a lot more comfortable with Robinson, Knowles, those likes on the field, as opposed to getting Amari Gaynor, DJ Lundy, Kalen DeLoach, Steven Dix, getting another one of them on the field.
If I was Brian Kelly, I force Florida State to play as many of their linebackers as possible, and I do that through size mismatches. Like, I want Florida State to play a lot more 4-3 than they play nickel this game. That would be my strategy. Now, Adam, your key to the game was force Jack Cohn to beat you. Who do you think is going to be the most most important player that's going to have the impact? Is it a defensive back? Is it a defensive lineman? What is going to make Notre Dame one-dimensional?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be the D line, right? I mean, it's got to be your rotation inside of Lovett, of Cooper, and of Dennis Briggs. I mean, those three are going to have a big day, or big night, I should say. And then, your ends. Keir Thomas is going to have to set an edge. I mean, you see all these runs bouncing outside.
Nice.
He's going to, hell of a play. He's going to have to set an edge. Jermaine Johnson's going to have a big day. It really is going to have to start up front. Those guys are going to have to win one-on-one matchups against a big hulking offensive line.
We need to have that needs to happen too. Like,
Yeah.
like a little unluck of the Irish there. That was a pretty disgusting little hand. Oh, this is fun.
Okay. I will say this defensive line for Notre Dame looks pretty solid.
Yeah, they're good. They're good.
All right, which is a concern. I mean, look at that. That's nice. The right tackle here, getting up under the shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're stout up front. I'm wondering if they do some of this 3-man stuff like you described in your video. If they do some of that,
that's my question here.
I'm wondering if that is not necessarily their strength.
I have to wonder if you have the 4-man personnel, you have the personnel to run a 4-man front. Why you bring in a guy that's made a living off running an odd front?
Yeah.
So for the people that may not have seen that video that you did on Notre Dame, Kevin, Marcus Freeman likes to do a 3-man front with the linebacker sometimes going up to the line of scrimmage, playing the 3 technique. That's pretty unique. I don't know how many other people run a scheme like that.
Right. So we have a 4-man front here. At Marcus Freeman's last stop, he tended to like having a 3-man front. So imagine one of these guys is a linebacker instead of a lineman. And then he would kind of be able to choose whichever. He basically did play a 4-man front, but he would get to choose whichever, if he wanted to play over or under. But oftentimes these linebackers would just insert into the opposite A gaps. The defensive ends crash into the B gap. And so you're stuffed up on the interior. And so he had 2 hybrid linebackers out here. So it was a really fast-moving, quick defense. But I have to wonder if maybe they're just matching up against the offense, or is this something that Florida State's going to see going forward? Because he would go 4-man front against heavier teams in Cincinnati, but I don't know.
Against the Memphis, against the Mike Norvell teams, he would play that 3-man front, though, right?
Mostly.
Okay. Now, Adam, we talked about the first key on our Warpath to victory, trademark, copyright, registered trademark, is force Jack Cohn to beat you downfield. What's another key to the game? What's something else that Florida State is going to have to do to beat Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy. You're going to want to force Jack Cohn to beat you down the field. You're going to have to win down the field. You're going to have to win shot plays, and you're going to have to. Yeah. We know that this staff's good at dialing them up. They're going to have to execute them. I mean, they've got to hit them. They can't miss. You saw that overthrow there. Jack Cohn, a little run. Yeah,
he's not unathletic. He's just no Ian Book.
But you see a miss.
A pretty bad throw right there.
Yeah, you see a missed shot play there. Florida State's got to execute their shot plays. They're going to get dialed up. They're going to have opportunities. We know it's been an emphasis in camp this fall of getting a kid like Andrew Parchment down the field and getting guys to win one-on-ones down the field. They're going to have to do that. I mean, you're going to have to create chunk plays because your offensive line still just isn't good enough to go out and win you games with 10-play drives. It's just not. It's not going to happen consistently anyway. So, yeah, I mean, you've got to go out and win down the field.
Now that leads me to another point, Kevin. If Florida State is not able to execute chunk plays, is it more because of our wide receivers or our offensive line, in your opinion, in this game? If we can't do it, who's the biggest potential liability to us not being able to do it?
Oh, I think it's 100% the receivers from my perspective, especially if you have Mackenzie Milton out there. Mackenzie doesn't hold on to the ball in general long enough for the offensive line to be a huge problem. That's one of the biggest features of him as a quarterback is his quick trigger, his anticipation. And so if you're having problems, it's because you're not winning those one-on-one matchups. And even here, you're seeing a lot of man coverage. These Notre Dame corners are definitely not a liability. I do not foresee us having a lot, like winning a lot of one-on-one matchups in the secondary, to be totally honest with you.
What's going to beat the Notre Dame corners that like to play a lot of man? And there's some really good safeties on this team, particularly Kyle Hamilton, who is but considered by many to be the best safety in the entire country, Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Are Florida State's wide receivers going to get open via speed or physicality? What's going to be more helpful to them in this game? Because Andrew Parchment's got, I feel like we've got some receivers with some speed and some receivers with some physicality, but I don't know who's going to shine.
Yeah. Parchment's made a few plays here the last week or so in practice. He seems to have kind of found an opportunity at points in the practice. He hasn't been consistent, but he's kind of made a couple plays, had a big catch today, I believe, in practice. So yeah, it's got to be a combination. I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of different things against these guys. Against press coverage, you've got to really be good at your takeoffs at the line of scrimmage. You've got to be working those moves.
Oh God!
My
Jesus
God!
Christ!
Killed a man
in
in
the
the spring game.
Hate your teammate.
Yeah, don't run into that. Don't do that. Okay, whatever. Yeah. So I mean, they've got to be good at their takeoffs and get off the line of scrimmage and getting off this press. I think that they've got guys that can win down the field. I don't think Notre Dame's got elite corners. I mean, I think they're good. I don't think they're great. So Florida State's lucky enough to have, I do believe, this secondary for Florida State's pretty good. So they've been repping against this stuff. They've been repping against good, strong man press coverage all fall. So they've got some experience against it. But it's going to come down to Norvell and Dillingham also scheming some of these guys open. I mean, you've got to, if you're having trouble getting open against press, you've got to move guys around. You've got to do things, work stack receiver sets. You've got to have to do things to kind of help get them open also.
I think you also have to be able to run the ball.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what I was going to get to next. So very, very nice segue, Kevin. As you can see, the chemistry is just firing on all cylinders. So I'm going to ask you, Kevin, do you think Florida State has more explosive plays in the run game or the pass game against Notre Dame? And is that a formula? Is that the formula for success, whatever we think it's going to be?
So defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman has been quoted as saying, well, not quoted, I'm not going to quote him, but his philosophy basically is to dare them to run the football because he knows that the pass is a way more successful play in football, right? Like if you're making the opposing team pass, that's a better choice for them more times than not, even in college football.
Yeah.
And so, and honestly, they had a top 5 defense last year in the country. Like when you look at the advanced stats, Cincinnati had a top 5 defense in the country. This clearly works. But I think Florida State, especially with Jordan Travis, who might be the better matchup against Notre Dame, I think you have to take him up on that offer. If you're able to run the ball against Notre Dame, you don't have to win some sort of like theoretical football, what's the better play battle. You just have to win for 60 minutes. And if you're able to do that on the ground, you take it.
Yeah.
If and obviously he said top 5 defense, Marcus Freeman's been extremely successful everywhere he's been as a defensive coordinator. But it might be the case of wrong quarterback in Jordan Travis and wrong coach and offensive coordinator and Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham to play I dare you to run, because we're going to take it all day. And one of Florida State's strengths, one of their strengths, was creating opportunities to run the ball. So if there's openings, number one, Norvell has shown that he can exploit those.
Well,
and we're definitely going to exploit him again this year. So that's an interesting battle to watch.
If Jordan Travis is your starter, which I think we're all assuming that he's going to be,
I don't know. I can't, dude. I don't know even what to think about that. I can't. You're probably right, but I don't know. I'm going to say I personally don't know.
If he's your starter, you start every play +1, which is great. I mean, that is the benefit of having a Jordan Travis in the backfield at quarterback, is you immediately have evened the numbers up for yourself offensively. So every time that they come out and want to play defense, they've got to account for him, which opens up something else. Now, has he improved in that area of throwing the football? That's the big question. We don't know. I mean, we saw them move the football
saw
last
him
year.
move without snapping the ball right there.
Trying to avoid that nonsense. But we saw them move the football against Notre Dame last year. Now, Notre Dame had been out for a month, basically had a month off because of COVID and yada, 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 yada. But we saw them be able to find ways to move the football. We saw Jordan Travis be able to do this. I'm going to go back to the question you originally asked, which was more explosives in the run or pass game.
Yeah.
I think if Jordan Travis is your quarterback, it's going to be more explosives in the run game, which I think you can live with that, right? I mean, as long as you're getting plus 20-yard plays at an okay clip or throughout the game, you can survive like that, right? Whether it's coming from the run or the pass.
Yeah, I agree with that. What are we seeing here, Kev?
So Janarius Robinson, you really have two options. You can either blow this guy up and just make this running lane impossible, giving your guys time to read this, or you can make the tackle if he's not going to block you, which he doesn't block him, but he also doesn't make the tackle, so it was kind of he did neither.
Wow, yeah, that's a nice little matador.
That's what happens when you put your head down.
We're talking about explosive plays in this Notre Dame running game. Are there other? What's a key to the game that maybe applies to what we're watching right now, Adam? What's another one? Is there a specific play concept that they need to stop? What do you? Maybe tackling Kyron Williams would be a good key to the game.
I know everybody's gonna talk about the counter stuff. You've got to stop their zone run game, right? I mean,
right. The majority of the
really
time they're running a lot of zone runs.
Yeah, that really is their bread and butter. So you've got to tackle the cutback, which we know Florida State was atrocious at last year. You just gotta, oh my God. I mean, defensively, you just play defense, okay? I mean, just find a way to play any kind of defense this year. Look coordinated, look like you understand where the hell to go.
Gosh, he was a freshman at this point.
that guy scares the hell out of me.
Is that Michael Meyer?
Yeah,
Mayer.
I'm
going to call him Meyer because I want to mispronounce his name on purpose because it's Haiti.
I had to re-record it on my video the other day. So
put some respect on Baby Gronk, all right?
Yeah, I'm not going to.
The kid's a stud.
That kid's going to make a lot of money. Of course, you're going to make a lot of money when you're going against Leonard Warner. God love him. Hey, maybe a really nice guy, but
all right, let's talk about the transfers. Who on the defensive transfers is going to make the biggest difference from last year's game to this year's game, where it's going to be noticeable, like, oh, wow, I wish we would have had this guy? Is it one of the new defensive backs? Is it one of the new linemen? Who is it on defense?
It's got to be if we have a defensive end that's willing to blow up a pulling guard.
In your opinion, Kevin, Jermaine Johnson is the one that's gotten most of the press, deservedly so. People have said he could be the best player overall in the entire team. Is he the one that is most willing or best equipped to do what you just said?
Oh, he's certainly equipped enough. It's whether or not he's going to want to do it. It's a very thankless job, right? You're not going to get the tackle. You're going to hit somebody really hard, and someone else gets the tackle. So I think one of the biggest problems with our defense in this game isn't a lack of talent. It's a lack of people wanting to do their job, right?
Positional responsibilities.
Right here. You see the same
thing. The run
thing.
Fits were atrocious. People jumping in and out of gaps. We detailed this in the video that we did about there's a way to play these, like, to attack the plays that Notre Dame is running against us, and it's just it was atrocious.
He wants a tackle right here. This is what he's going for, the tackle. He misses it, which means that everybody else is out of position. Now, I mean,
your end doesn't help at all.
Right. The end gets crashed down for no reason. This linebacker doesn't read it very well. So it's just a bunch of people not doing the right thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of suckage last year. So, I mean, that's, for me, is the biggest thing on defense is just fit. Just fit.
Yeah.
Fit where you're supposed
Steven
to be.
Diggs decides to go inside for no reason on that play.
Just fit. Just fit. Fit within the structure of the defense. If you get outmanned or you get pushed off the ball, so be it. But just fit. Because Lundy's up the field, Dix goes inside, Warner gets washed, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races.
So Kevin said Jermaine Johnson. Adam, do you think that's the most impact transfer on defense, or is there somebody else that you would say, or do you just agree that, yeah, it's Jermaine, keep it simple, stupid?
I mean, I think you're hoping that it's Jermaine. You're hoping, man.
Man,
You're hoping that they're. You're hoping that Jack Cohn's throwing the football and Jermaine's running around back there making a lot of plays.
Yeah, if you can get him to change his base, he's not very accurate.
Yeah,
but in a pocket, he's one of the more accurate quarterbacks probably in the country.
You guys know I love me some Jamie Robinson. I just have a feeling he's going to find a way to make an impact in this football game. They've got to use him. He's the most versatile defender that they got, in my opinion. I'm going to ride with him. I'm going to ride that he's going to have a big impact on this game somehow, some way.
It's a tough matchup for him against that tight end that you guys like so much.
It is, but I think the kid's super talented. I think he just could bring something different to a defense that needs that different. Either him or Keir Thomas. I mean, Keir's got to set an edge. He's going to be playing into the boundary quite a bit. So that counter is going to be coming back at him, or some of that outside zone stuff. We saw in the spring game how much his backs like to bounce the ball. So just containing that football is going to be key. So, yeah, I think either Jamie or Keir, I think, are two of the guys that I'm going to maybe pencil in as my impact guys.
I'm watching Jermaine Johnson on passing downs, and I am keeping my eye glued to Keir Thomas on the running plays, because there was a lot of times you saw last year Kando and Janarius Robinson were not playing those run fits correctly, and the defense crumbled behind them as a result. I am Keir Thomas is my guy to watch, just for the way that he'll play the counter in the outside zones. If you can set that edge and you can contain, you're not going to stop Kyron Williams. He's too good, in my opinion. You're not going to stop Michael Mayer. He's too good, in my opinion. But if you can limit the damage, nice play.
Yep.
There is a way to get Jack Cohn uncomfortable in an environment that is going to be decidedly different than what these guys have been used to for a long time. Doak Campbell Stadium, it's a soft factor, but it's going to be just brimming with electricity, and you want to keep that environment for as long as possible.
I'm curious how that impacts both sides, though.
That's a fair point.
You went an entire year without. Well, I mean, they had crowds last year, but not what it's going to be most likely. Kickoff on Sunday. How does that impact? I mean, Norvell's talked about how this is an emotional team. I mean, do you come out overhyped and you kind of blow your load before you ever get on the field? Do they know how to play in front of an atmosphere like this? I mean, it's going to be loud even when they have the football. Are they going to be able to handle that noise and communicate? A group that hasn't been together quite as much as you probably would have liked this fall.
A young group.
And a young group. So, I mean, on both sides of the ball, I think it really could be somewhat of a factor, communication-wise, of being able to make sure you've got the right calls in there and are doing what you need to do. I know everybody's going to talk about it's a negative for Notre Dame, but it could be an issue for Florida State too early in the football game.
And that goes to maybe a key to the game that we didn't talk about pre-game, but I think a key to the game for Florida State is just composure in general. This is a team full of new players that have never played in a game environment before. They've never gelled. This is a team when things could go bad, or what's going to be the dynamic when players are yelling at each other on the sidelines, facing real, actual, non-manufactured adversity for the first time. This is a team that has crumbled in game. And this is a team that as a unit, after the UNC game, crumbled as an entire team.
Yeah.
During the middle of the season, it felt like, and a lot of that was with some guys that are no longer on the team anymore. But this is a unit that just went back in their shell like a hermit crab and just went in the fetal position and caved. What is going to be the mental makeup? Will they be plagued by ghosts of season openers past? Because season openers for Florida State have been a horror show. This is a new team. This is not something you think would be on their mind. I am telling you that is a mental hurdle that Florida State is going to have to overcome. So they need to keep their composure when it comes to penalties, when it comes to doing your job. Don't get overexcited, jump out of your gap, trying to make a superstar play, and you give up a 25-yard run because there's nobody behind you. So I think composure is a big factor. Kevin, what are some other, as we're watching the film right now, of some really easy completions for
I was
team?
trying to figure out what went wrong here. It's definitely some sort of, I don't know, I mean, it almost looks like true zone here, but my brain wants to think that it's uh,
This is just a zone beater. I mean, they do a
a
nice
man
job.
match. Oh, I don't know why he's biting so hard on that, but
Yeah, he shouldn't be. I'm guessing whoever that linebacker is should be.
I think he's thinking that this guy's going upfield because he sees him out here, and it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
he just makes that assumption, and
It's hard. It's hard to tell what the hell anybody was thinking last year.
yeah, it's just if I'm happy as a fan, I'm happy if Florida State comes out and has just a solid performance. If you get outplayed, you get outplayed, but I don't want to see them out executed, if that makes sense. Especially since Notre Dame's coming out with a new quarterback, with a new scheme on offense and on defense. I just feel like you need to be solid. You need to make Notre Dame beat you.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes from. You just can't let this happen,
Yeah,
right?
this can't happen.
And what happens here? Diagnose what is this?
Well, if I'm looking at it immediately, it looks like there's a misread stunt, right? So you have the A gap, the B gap. This guy's lined up in the B gap to begin with. He hops outside to the C gap. Then there's no one to replace him. So it feels like they don't know what's going on. And that might be a coaching thing. That might be a lack of practice thing. But this guy evacuates the B gap, and this guy's going into this A gap. There's only one linebacker for two gaps, and no one replaces.
Right, yeah. For some reason, I think that's Josh Griffiths, who's no longer with the team. He runs with the arc release out there by the tight end. So now they've widened with an arc release, the D end or D whatever D tackle.
There's a lot of guys coming into that gap about to railroad the entire defense.
Yeah, and none of them are wearing white jerseys.
And we're taking bad run fits at linebacker, and then
so many times Florida State running themselves out of the play. They're dead before the ball's even handed off here.
Yeah.
How many more times is this going to happen? So what you're saying, Kevin, is you want Florida State to actually look like the more fundamental team, the more polished team, just because they have at least a little bit of continuity of scheme, whereas Notre Dame is not going to?
Yeah, for the first time in 4 years, you're the team that has more continuity of scheme going into a game, and you need to show it.
That is crazy. Any other keys to the game that you guys think that are just vitally important, have to happen? I mean, there's things that are obvious, like win the turnover battle, this. We like to get a little bit deeper than the surface level stuff here on the show. Anything else that kind of jumps out at you that you're really looking for, and if you see it kind of gets a gleam in your eye?
I think it's first down success on both sides of the football. Controlling what they are able to gain on first down and getting them into more long passing downs, which again will put you in a position where you're asking Cone to beat you down the field a little bit more, but also when you're on offense is winning, and that's throwing and running the football. I'd like to see them be aggressive throwing the football in early downs against Notre Dame. You can't be in third and long. I mean, you can't be in that and be successful. We know the offensive line, we expect it to be improved, but we know they're still not going to be great. So I don't think you're going to have all day to stand back there third and 10, third and 9, third and 8 or whatever, and try to have a lot of success. So running the football, getting Jordan involved in the run game on first down, but also taking your shots when they present themselves on first down, I think is a good way to then also help your
But look what a good pass rush does.
Right. Kev, are there any tendencies that Notre Dame likes to show on first downs? Are they a very run-heavy first down team? Or are they – oh, my God, was that a flag? You actually have a good first down play. And then, that looks like a penalty. You can't have – you can't do that. You can't
happens over and over.
But, Kevin, any tendencies that you see from Notre Dame as far as, like, how they like to call their plays or anything that, maybe Florida State fans should watch out for?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they change it up. Even if they're doing 11, 12 personnel, keeping it light on the field, they tend to play it safe. And I think Jack Cohn is a quarterback that's going to be perfect at playing it safe. They're going to run the ball. They're going to throw it short. They're going to do that mesh play that we just saw. Here's another example of a similar idea, right? Um, you have two routes being run off, and then an under route that kind of takes the pick. It's an easy completion for the quarterback. If you're unable to get any sort of pass rush, then they're going to eat you alive, and that could be on first down or second down. But you can't let them have those easy completions. And I don't know specifically if like what the percentage ratios of run versus pass on first down, but
Sure.
in my mind, like coming from an air raid background, that's a running play to me.
That's fair. Yeah, that's more of the distributed to your guys, and it's not so much the run pass split; it's the amount of times your different skill players touch the ball split. It's very Mike Leachian, and that's why I love you, Kevin. What do we? If Florida State wins, like if they win, they are the underdogs for a reason, but they're not massive underdogs. I think the line's around like 7 or 8. Now I don't know if Vegas is. If that's mostly due to all the new faces on Notre Dame, or if that's more to the fact that Florida State's like a team of chaos, as Vegas likes to say. They have no idea. They have no idea how Florida State's going to look with all these new faces. But Adam, Florida State wins the game. Paint the picture to me of what like the prototypical Florida State win looks like. A realistic picture, not like Florida State goes out and scores on the first 8 drives. Paint to me a realistic picture of a Florida State victory, and what out of those keys that we said is most likely to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you score early, and I mean touchdowns, not field goals. You're able to get an early score in the game, whether it be on your first scripted drive or later, your second, whatever. You're able to make Notre Dame work the football, not just give up free chunk plays and free touchdowns like they did last year. So you're able to get on the board early. You're able to keep them kind of make them work for everything kind of early. You're keeping the crowd into it. Jordan Travis is having a good day running around. If Mackenzie Milton's in there,
I love this play design.
He's having a good day throwing the ball and kind of doing what he kind of crazy stuff that he does. Tolafili, Corbin are doing their thing on the ball, or, running the ball. You're having success with those guys. You're able to get Parchment and Helton involved and find success with them. And you're making Jack Cohn continue to try to beat you over the top. Maybe he's going to beat you. Maybe he's going to hit one or here or there, and that's fine. You're going to live with that. But you're continuing to make him have to throw the football down the field. You're trying to keep the baby Gronk under control. Crowd staying raucous. They're staying rocking. Doug Campbell is jumping up and down, going crazy. It's a 21-17 kind of game at halftime. You're feeling good. Then you come out of the second half, which is something they struggled last year to do. And
right.
you're able to build off of that. You're able to build off of that little bit of momentum you had or whatever in the first half. Man, how did that not come on? You're able to build off of that. And you go through the second half, continue to battle, continue to compete.
Oof.
Yeah, that sucks. That hurts. Continue to compete, continue to work, giving them everything you got. Jordan Travis continue to do what he does. You're throwing the ball on first down. You're running the ball on first down. You're keeping them kind of on their heels, attacking that 3-man front with your run game and with your +1 with the quarterback. You just do that for 4 quarters and see where you fall.
I'll push off there. I think that Florida State is going to need some help to win this game. I definitely think it's a winnable game. Now, I don't mean help from like the officials. I mean like help from the football gods. And It could be help from the football gods that you manufacture yourself. I'm thinking like a big special teams play, where it's like a block punt, block field goal, a punt return, like get Travis J in the return game. Florida State special teams were markedly better last year by almost any metric that you look at. We're going to need a big momentum changing play, because to me, Notre Dame, although their schemes are different, they are the most stable program. They know what they want to do. They have an identity as a team and as a culture. And over the course of a game, they are going to be able to grind down Florida State in most situations. However, Florida State had a lead at the end of the first quarter last year with a disgusting dog crap team that we had, and it was due to turnovers. So that type of stuff can happen again. There is a scenario where Florida State wins this game. There's a lot of people that are going in there with this suicide mission. We are not John Rambo in Afghanistan, right? Like there is a way to win this game. Kevin, I want to ask you a question. You're looking at the box score on Monday morning, and let's just say if there's a player that jumps out to you where you see their stats and you're like, wow, he had a great game. Who's going to be a player that if they had a great game lets you know that Florida State either won or was right in it until the end?
Yeah, I think I have to go again with the defensive ends. I've got to look at
Okay.
tackles for loss, sacks. I think you've got to get this team behind the chains. And I think that's going to be the most effective way at forcing them to take those shot plays and be uncomfortable is you shut them down on first down, you stop that easy pass, that easy run, and force them into a second and third and long. And I think that comes down to the defensive line, really. To kind of expand on that, I think if I look at the box score as a whole, I think the team that runs for more yardage wins this game.
Interesting. I think that's fair, but I like how your pick was on the defensive side of the ball. So if you wake up, you see Jermaine Johnson with like 2 sacks, a tackle for loss, a bunch of hurries, a bunch of pressures, and you say, and let's say you didn't even watch the game, you say, hey, I bet that was a good night for Florida State. Adam, do you have another player like that?
Yeah, it's Kalen DeLoach for me.
Okay, another defensive guy. That makes sense.
And I've got an offensive
like
one
those
also,
answers.
but I think if Kalen DeLoach, if I wake up on Monday morning, Kalen DeLoach has 12, 13 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a fumble recovery, 2 pass breakups, whatever, something like that. I think Florida State's done pretty well, and they've competed all night long in this football game. And then offensively, I mean, I think it's Jordan's the easy answer, or Milton.
Right, a quarterback it tells a lot more than any
Absolutely.
other position.
But I think the other one that maybe is obvious is Andrew Parchment.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
I mean, he or Keyshawn Helton or Pokey, Wilson. If one of those 3 has a big night, or 5 for 100 and a touchdown, something like that, you're going to feel like you've competed pretty well offensively. Maybe not enough to win, but you've gone out there and done something that's kept the score, kept the score somewhat respectable and close, and you battled.
To me, it's either Parchment or one of the outside guys, like maybe like a Malik McLean. Just one of the outside guys having a game is like a waterfall effect. It's a ripple, right? It affects so many other things, because if you can get Notre Dame having to respect a guy who can legitimately take the top off, that starts to open up a lot of the underneath routes against Notre Dame's young linebackers, for a Cam McDonald, for a Keyshawn Helton, who had a really, really good camp, for an Ontario Wilson, another guy who's been in the program for seemingly a long time and has been waiting to find some consistency. If you can get some of those guys room to operate in that 10 to 15 yard range, that could be really, really good for Florida State. Now, with the room, can Jordan Travis show the competency to attack the middle of the field, that kind of secondary level? It's not something that he's really shown a ton of competency so far, but there's been camp reports that Jordan Travis has grown as a passer. Can't be doing stuff like that.
No.
I'm with you. I think it's the wide receivers to me. I mean, at least on offense. If I see Andrew Parchment with a monster of a game, that lets me know Mike Norvell hit on the explosive plays that he needed to, and he executed his game plan. So I agree with you guys completely. Is this something to where, as we see, Florida State, this game is well in hand right now? Do we want to do score predictions? I haven't even asked you guys this. Is that something you guys want to do, or do you want to stay away from that?
I mean, we can. Doesn't matter to me. I've got one in mind. I don't know if Kev's prepared or not, so it's up to him.
Let's do it.
Go ahead, Adam. Floor is yours.
All right. Let me go back. I have shared this elsewhere. Maybe I'll share this on the Patreon too. We'll start sharing some info on the Patreon for our Patreon folks that have signed up.
There you go, brother.
I've got
tidbits.
Got to do something for you guys.
38-27 Notre Dame.
Okay. Why? I mean, how do you see that playing out? You see like maybe Florida State jumps out early, or is it kind of like a laugher that
I
Florida State's getting late with some garbage time? How do
No,
you
I
think the
think
game
I
plays
think it's a
out?
competitive game through the end of the fourth quarter. I think Notre Dame just kind of finds a way to get a extra score late in the game to kind of put it away, make it that 11-point difference. I think Michael Mayer's going to have a big game. He really concerns me.
Yeah, we don't have anybody match up with him.
No, and I ultimately think that just allows them to control the football enough that Florida State's going to run out of opportunities.
So the game it's just one of those things where Notre Dame almost wins kind of a war of attrition, and it's their tight ends and just the Kyron Williams over and over again. It's just I'm apt to agree with you. I think, and I'll let Kevin do his last. I see this as maybe like a 41 to 31 type game, maybe 41 to 28. Similar in score to what we had last year, but more competent. Like last year, what we lost 42 to 26. It didn't feel like a 16-point loss. It felt like a 26-point loss because I felt like Notre Dame could kind of call their shots as far as when they needed to rip off an 11-yard run or a 20-yard pass. I think that you see a much more competent performance, if not a similar score. I think Doak Campbell. I think this is a competitive game until the fourth quarter. I just think it's a war of attrition. If I'm Brian Kelly, and thank God I'm not, because I'm not a cold-blooded murderer, I try to get Kyron Williams in the passing game matched up with Florida State's linebackers. I try to get Michael Mayer matched up with their linebackers. I take advantage of the same weaknesses. There's going to be a lot more improved play on Florida State's defense this year than last year, in my opinion, but the same glaring weakness, that second level, is still there. Prove to me you can run fit, and try to cover my tight end, and try to cover my legitimate NFL prospect, great running back, Kyron Williams. I don't think he can do that for 60 minutes without some help of turnovers or a big special teams play. However, this is a winnable game for Florida State. This is a game where a couple game-changing plays. To me, this is not an auto loss for Florida State, especially with once again, I'm talking soft factors here. We don't normally like to do that. We like to look at the film. But week ones are funky. Outside of Alabama, which is just a monolithic juggernaut, week ones are a toss-up. There's stuff that happens in week one that doesn't happen for the rest of the year. For example, Iowa State is the worst team in the country for whatever reason in week 1 and 2, and then they rip off 9 or 10 in a row. Week ones are funky. So it could happen, guys. Keep the faith. Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I could throw out a number. It's just going to be some sort of different iteration of you guys. I think it's going to be about a 10-point ball game.
So you see the game going the same way.
Yeah, just kind of like, I think we're going to be a notch better. We're going to get less turnover luck. And I just want to be able to walk away. I want the players to be able to walk away and say, like, we're a solid football team. We're a team that could be competing to be in the top 25 if we didn't have to go through the gauntlet of the schedule that we have to go through. I think if you win the game, Mackenzie Milton.
If you win the game, this will be a fun show to do.
Yeah. I think Mackenzie Milton could potentially show up and be the old Mackenzie Milton when the lights turn on and he's just unstoppable, and that's some sort of miracle that happens. But barring that, you would just have to get all of the right bounces. And so I'm not seeing it. I'll take the 10-point loss, but as long as there's competent play and people seem to have some clue of how to play together, then I think that's a win for the fan base, and we should be able to beat Jacksonville State.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's, to me, the most important thing is you look more competent and you keep that quintessential Doak night game, important game environment for as long as possible with all of the important recruits that are there. And I know that was touched on by our Florida State recruiting guys on our Tomahawk Nation Everything Knowles Facebook feed. It's a massive weekend. This could be, depending on if it goes really good or really bad, this could be the inflection point of Mike Norvell's entire career at Florida State. And I don't like to use hyperbole, even though it's fun. I'm being 100% serious. If this game is a disaster, it could be a death knell. Or if this game goes really, really well, and for the love of God, if we're talking about a win on Monday
Please
morning,
touchdown, Jesus.
bro, it could be it could be massive.
I'm popping
So
bubbly up in here if we
It's
win.
I'm drinking
People
all
in
the
Delaware
damn beer
going.
in my fridge. We're all going crazy, and we're gonna be there with you. So no matter how the game goes, the triple option and the X's and Knowles YouTube show is gonna be there with you every step of the way. We're finally talking football. We're not talking hypotheticals. We're gonna talk about how Florida State actually looks. And as always, for Kevin Little, for Coach Adam Brown, and for myself, Trey Rowland, keep chopping on, baby, and go Knowles.
You better chop the hell out of it
Ready
on Sunday night.
for football.